Well, hello from the Principality Stadium, where Ireland are having their captain's run here ahead of tomorrow's Six Nations game with Wales. Lads, well, you made it anyway.
Just about, Sinead, yeah.
Wind problems with flights over?
Yeah, there's flights cancelled this morning. I'm sure some fans have been affected by it. We were flying to Bristol. We ended up in Birmingham, got a train down with a fair few Irish fans in the same boat. Some people getting buses to Bristol. So hopefully, whoever got cancelled this morning gets rescheduled. I think it's going to be pretty tricky going back on Sunday as well via Bristol. So, not an ideal start to the weekend, but as people can see behind us, the team are here, so that's the main thing.
Yeah, I was on the team flight with them over, so they made it over here safe and sound yesterday. A word on the team selection, obviously, from yesterday, Rory. 7 changes overall. Probably more than we would have expected from Simon Easterby.
Yeah, particularly I think when we knew that Caelan Doris was out, that Ronan Kelleher would miss out, that Tadhg Furlong wasn't going to be back. I thought they'd tighten up a little bit. Doris has played 42 games in a row for them, started 41 of those 42. He's such an important figure. I thought making 2 changes, maybe 1 or 2 others. I expected, the one change I did expect was probably Crowley for Prendergast. That didn't happen. But they've gone, it's not drastic by any means. They're all mostly established players. Obviously Jack Boyle's getting his debut. They're giving Tom Clarkson a start. But it was more than I expected. I think it's quite brave for an interim coach at a point where he's now quite an in-demand interim coach to go with that. I'm sure Andy Farrell was involved as well. But they obviously feel like they have the depth and they have the quality within the 23 that they picked to still beat this Welsh team.
It's an exciting team. People, supporters are always looking to see new faces, and here we are for such a big Six Nations game. I agree, it's brave. I think the easy thing would have been, especially the way it falls in between the break weeks, that you obviously conscious of keeping the momentum that you've built up. But there's a lot to like. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Jamie Osborne goes at fullback.
You two remind me there, it's his first Six Nations appearance, not to mind his first Six Nations start.
You look at how well he did in South Africa last summer, and to be fair, Hugo Keenan has come back in and played very well, and there's no space at all for him in the matchday 23 as well. So look, that's the strength and depth that Ireland have at the moment.
Yeah, and you're particularly looking forward to the front rows as well.
Yeah, I think it's a huge day for the bigger picture of the Irish front row. I think at times they've been a little bit slow to bring through younger props, particularly on the loosehead side. I mean, the fact that Cian Healy has still been going at the age of 37 in the last couple of games, I think there's been signs that Father Time is catching up with him if he hasn't done already. So look, I'm hugely encouraged to see that Jack Boyle is being trusted, albeit off the bench. Gus McCarthy as well, who what a breakthrough he had in November. Thomas Clarkson, like you said, Rod, getting his first start. But all 3 of them are under 20s Grand Slam winners in 3 different years, which I think is very interesting. So Clarkson won the Grand Slam at Ireland in 2019, Jack Boyle won it in 2022, and Gus McCarthy was the captain in 2023. So it's brilliant that we're now starting to see these guys come through, because it's such an important position. You think of the amount of game time that Andrew Porter racks up. It's brilliant. He's a freakish athlete, but you would much rather having someone a bit younger there to help share the load. Over the years, Tadhg Furlong has been pretty similar as well, and obviously Ireland are blessed that they have Dan Sheehan and Ronan Kelleher, but Kelleher is now out and Gus McCarthy gets his chance as well. So I think it's a big day for the overall sort of depth chart, Sinead, of the Irish front rows.
What about that?
Yeah, no, it's all very important, because we know that that's the thinnest. They're in 9 really, are the 2 thinnest areas. You've got the A game down the road. Tom O'Toole's getting a go at loosehead. They've been looking at him there for a while. So it's a focus of Irish rugby right now, because they know that that's an issue. I was always surprised that they didn't start Jack Boyle in the way that they do at Leinster and give him as long as he needs, and then bring Porter on if you need to. But I guess they've gone for that balance of having 2 experienced front rows alongside Clarkson, and then they have with Joe McCarthy's power behind them, and then they could bring on the 2 less experienced players later in the game. So I think they expect to try and get ahead of Wales and have the game be in a pretty comfortable position when they bring on Jack Boyle. But from everything we've been hearing about Jack Boyle is that he's gone very well since he's been in camp in November. So they obviously have great faith in him, and they've taken their time with him as well. They haven't blooded him too quickly. They've been very slow about it in many ways, but I'm sure he feels he's ready now, because he spent so much time in this setup.
I really like the tactics, Ari, of doing it the way they did, rather than kind of throwing 2 young props in at the same time. Now they're giving Tom Clarkson a brilliant chance, his best possible chance, to thrive, because he's playing alongside Andrew Porter and Dan Sheehan, and then he's got Jack Boyle will have Finlay Bealham coming off the bench as well. So I think that's something Leinster and Leo Cullen have done very well over the years, when they are starting to blood players through. That they were like, if it was a second row, if it was James Ryan, like he could play with Devon Toner, for example, like things like that. I think that's the best way to blood guys through, because look, this could be a tricky day here tomorrow under the roof, and if you had all the young guys in at the same time, I think you're risking the momentum that you've built up over the first 2 rounds being disrupted. So they've already made enough changes, and I think it's smart enough to put the younger players next to experienced players.
What about the Wales selection? So 8 changes, 2 positional switches, the side that lost to Italy. I was out in the Vale of Glamorgan yesterday. I thought the interim head coach Matt Sherrod handled it fairly well for being absolutely thrown into the situation. What stands out to you about that selection for tomorrow?
Well, look, obviously they've brought back experience in Gareth Anscombe in the position that I think when Warren Gatland sits back and reflects on what went wrong in the last while, it's the lack of experience, it's the selections at 10. But really, even with those changes and with the little bit of a renewed sense of optimism about a new coach and all that sort of stuff, it's really the lack of experience, the lack of cohesion. I know they're going to come for Ireland's ruck tomorrow. I was talking to a couple of Welsh journalists. They said the 3 best fetchers in the squad are on the team of Nicky Smith in the front row, and then the 2 flankers, Reffell and Jack Morgan on the flanks. They're going to try and replicate what England did in terms of dirtying up Ireland's ball, disrupting their flow of possession for the half-backs. But when you look at the cattle that they have with a debutant on the wing, there's a lot of areas that Ireland will see as opportunities to go after. There is some cohesion from Cardiff and Gloucester. There's a bit of, there is some club combinations. But when you compare it to the cohesion that this, largely Leinster group that are training beside us have, and what they've built over the last number of years with Ireland, Ireland is so much further down the track. So I'd expect an emotional performance tomorrow from this group of Welsh players. It's the first home game of the thing. I think Ireland will have to weather a bit of a storm in the early stages. They'll have to. We're expecting a lot of Irish fans to be a part of the big atmosphere here if they can all make it, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But I do think there's going to be a bit of that. But when you look at the 2 groups of players, it's very hard to make a case for this Welsh team to win tomorrow.
Yeah, I think Ireland have put a big focus on the first 20 minutes because they're just expecting, exactly as Rod said, for Wales to come flying out of the traps. Now, if Ireland meet fire in that first 20 minutes and don't allow the crowd to get into the game, then I think they'll make it a more comfortable afternoon for themselves. But we've spoken about this a few times. When Ireland have tended to make as many changes that they have, it hasn't always been as fluid and as slick. So I think there's pressure on certain guys to take their opportunity now, because this isn't, Simon Eastby was making a point yesterday, this isn't a November international, this is a big Six Nations game under the roof. What a venue. It's worth kind of reiterating it. It's definitely one of the best venues, isn't it, in World Rugby? Yeah. I was just chatting to Andrew Goodman there just before they started their captain's run. The Welsh have just heavily watered the pitch, which is probably a bit
surprise.
A bit of old silly buggers. So even though the roof is closed, they're somehow managed to be training on a wet pitch. But look, it's the amount of great days. Irish teams have actually struggled here, ironically enough, over the years. But you think of all the great Heineken Cup finals, Munster, here the 2 Heineken Cups that they won. It's just one of the best cathedrals of rugby, and hopefully Ireland can live up to it tomorrow, because I think they're kind of in a no-win position in the sense that everyone is expecting them to win well. It's a free shot for Wales, but how much can Matt Sherrod, I suppose, change in the space of what did he have, a couple of training sessions this week? So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but I'm definitely firmly expecting Ireland to pick up where they left off against Scotland. Okay,
I think the media window is actually just closing now. Cian and Rory, thank you very much for that. Follow all the bits, of course, on independent.ie.